I'll be the first to admit it. I'm a bit of a simp for Nintendo. I can't tell you how many times I've bought in Super Mario World. I mean, I had it for the Super Nintendo, bought it for the Wii, upgraded to the Wii U, 3DS. I'm sure I have it on Switch somewhere. I pay for Switch Online. I play that game a lot, and I've paid for it a lot. Nintendo honestly has me wrapped around their finger, but they don't have the best track record of being inclusive, I guess you would say, in the gaming space. They really love protecting their IP. They have some of the most recognizable, iconic characters in video games, and they are very protective of it. They love taking people to court. They love shutting down any kind of avenue people could monetize from their content. Not like people putting out their own Mario games, which has happened before, and they have shut that down. But even they have a really sketchy history with YouTube and any kind of Nintendo content on there. They went through this era where they would just shut things down. They've been a little more lenient with that, but they've done something this week that's been sparking conversations. It's another effort to protect their own IP. It's not on the same level as their YouTube takedowns from years ago, but I think it could be on an actual grander scale. It's not necessarily affecting content creators, but it could affect video games themselves moving forward. That comes in the form of patents. So this week, Nintendo patented 32 game mechanics, not physical items. I know patents don't get brought up a lot in the gaming space or on news sites, but when they do, it's typically for like a physical item. Like Sony just patented a VR headset that has like smell-o-vision or something. Nintendo patented a bunch of things that are used in engine when developing games, and a lot of them are stemming from The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. And I guess it's not surprising knowing Nintendo and playing Tears of the Kingdom, because there's so many new things that they put into that game mechanics wise that honestly blow me away. But I never really thought about the idea of Nintendo saying, hey, that's something we did. You're not allowed to do that. And they're going to shut it down. And although a lot of things that were implemented into Tears of the Kingdom are really cool and kind of fresh ideas, there's still a debate going on whether or not the patents themselves are too broad or general to actually be patent to stop other developers from using a similar idea into their game. But I guess it's something that Nintendo is pretty used to, because thanks to this article from Automation Media, it says Nintendo's patents had been cited as ground for rejection of other companies' patents in 180 cases during the year 2022. Further down the article, they talk a little bit about the actual patents that were filed. A lot of them pertain to in-game abilities such as Ultra Hand and Fuse, as well as more specific patents related to the abilities of certain side characters such as Riju's remote lightning attack. That's kind of surprising because I actually really don't like that one. I don't use Riju that much. I kind of just roll with Yunobo and Tulin. This is one that kind of surprised me. One patent, as spotted by Naoya 2K, I hope I got that right, that appears to be obvious as a functionality at first glance, is related to the calculations performed while Link rides on top of objects. The solution is described as follows. The movement of movable dynamic objects placed in the virtual space is controlled by physics calculations, and the movement of the player's character is controlled by user input. That makes sense. I mean, games have physics, and you use a controller to control your character. Pretty much, every game needs those two things. When the player's character and a dynamic object come in contact in the downward direction relative to the character, in other words, when the character is on top of an object, the movement of the dynamic object is added to the movement of the player's character. So I know that there's still a little bit more explanation underneath this, but reading that's physics, that's if you're driving in a car down the road at 40 miles an hour, your body is moving at 40 miles an hour. You're moving relative to whatever that car is moving at. So to put simply, the game judges when Link is making contact with a movable object underneath him. And if the object moves, Link will automatically move in the same way and speed as the object does, without any input being made. So reading that basically means that if you use Ultra Hand, which is another patent that they filed, and you make a board with 4 wheels on it and you roll it down a hill, it's going to have motion. If Link drops on it while it's rolling down a hill, Link's motion is the same as that board, car, whatever you want to call it. The functionality seems at first glance to be given for any game with a similar environment, but according to an observation by Naoya2K, what makes Nintendo's solution unique is that there are no physics working between Link and the dynamic object. Since both character and object use physics, the most straightforward solution would be that Link moves together with the moving objects he is on top of as a result of physics, such as frictional force. But Nintendo apparently decided that what works better game-wise is Link being given the same movement that the object is performing, without any physics working between the two. At the same time, it's still hard to firmly state that there are no predecessors in this mechanic. So the first thing that comes to my mind is Grand Theft Auto, and kind of like car physics. When you hit a wall really, really fast, your character will eject from that car. But that requires input. That requires you to press the trigger for the gas to move really, really fast. But Nintendo's patent here seems to imply that a downward motion of an object that has already been moving requires no input from the player. If the character, in this case Link, would be on top of that object, his motion or his physics would match that moving object with no input required by the player. So going back to Grand Theft Auto, say you are going down a mountain and you're inside of a car, and you put your controller down. You're going to continue to pick up speed going down that mountain, and if you hit a wall at the end of it, your player will still get ejected or have some kind of action based on the speed that you made that collision. What I don't know is if the player and the car are moving at independent physics. And this is really something that I'm not super into. I'm saying all this stuff and I'm spewing this out, and I feel like I sound smart, but trust me, I don't know anything about this stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure if games that have like car motion or car impact that affect the player, if the player and the car are moving at independent physics, or if it's like real life when you, like I said, when you're in a car and you're moving at a speed, you're moving at the same speed as the car you're driving. The next patent we have talks a little bit about Ultra Hand. This patent defines a mechanic that prevents Link from grabbing an object he is on top of using Ultra Hand, which also seems rather intuitive. The patent does, however, go into details such as the mechanic also blocking Link from using Ultra Hand on objects which have been joined to an object he is on top of. So this one, game-wise, it makes sense. You know, Link has weight to him, so if he's on top of an object, he's not really going to be able to pull that object out from underneath him. And honestly, I will say that I think Ultra Hand is such a unique ability that if not only just like grabbing stuff, but being able to really attach anything to anything is a really unique feature that there probably will be copycats of that in the future. So I can see Nintendo trying to protect themselves on this one. The first one with the physics, I'm really not sure. This next one is a little wonky because I thought it was like super cool when I first noticed it in the game. It took me a little bit until I actually realized what was going on. But man, for Nintendo to want to keep that to themselves is so stupid. I'm talking about loading screens. So when you fast travel in the game, and this probably took me about 50 hours till I realized what I was looking at on the screen. When the fast travel initiates, you see a map on your screen and you see where you are in the world. And halfway through the loading screen, the map fades away and a new map comes up and it shows the destination that you fast traveled to. And I saw that and I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. I could kind of see like more stuff that's around me. That's just such a unique little thing. It's not like game changing. It's just like that's cool. That's super neat, you know? Nintendo wants it all to themselves. A rather unexpected mechanic of Tears of the Kingdom that has been patented by Nintendo is the very brief loading sequence that commences when using fast travel to instantly relocate to another place in the vast world. The patent is a solution to providing a game processing method capable of enriching game presentation during a waiting period in which at least part of the game processing is interrupted. That basically means keeping those neurons firing when you're trying to wait for the game to load. I remember when I played Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the PS2 and the little dragon radar was on screen. You were able to move it around on the joystick. It's stuff like that. It's just to keep our attention, because at the end of the day, we're all just monkeys. It consists of filling up the loading period that ensures after the user inputs their fast travel destination with a sequence in which an image of the starting point's map transitions into a map of the destination. After the sequence, the character is placed into the virtual space of that destination. I mean, I guess you could say it is game enriching, but it's not like that's what this game is going to be known for. It's just a cool little thing, you know? And I could see games being able to benefit from that idea, you know, showing you where you are on the map after you fast travel, trying to like maybe get your bearings. Not necessarily because it's like, you know, it's like what, 3-4 seconds, you know, but still just to give you like, oh, what's that? Oh, I want to go check that out. What's that lake over there, you know? Just a cool little thing, but you know, it is what it is. So as we said earlier, Nintendo is no stranger to patents or subpoenas or death threats, but this was kind of like a big chunk at once, and you're like, oh man, Nintendo's at it again. I mean, we only touched on 3 here, but you know, I think that Nintendo saw what a hit Tears of the Kingdom was and how many things actually worked for users, that they want to protect it. And going back to last year with 180 cases that were rejected, I think they're going to continue to do that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Nintendo. I grew up with them. It really is a big part of who I am. But you know, growing up and seeing the business side of things, you can't help but feel a little, I don't know, almost like disappointed or disgusted at some of these practices, especially when you have the mentality of that games are supposed to enrich people's lives, you know, not loading screens, games, you know, and it should be a shared environment. You know, Nintendo is kind of in the console race, if there even is one anymore. You know, it's not 2005 anymore, but Nintendo is its own thing. When it releases a AAA game, a Zelda, a Mario, a Pikmin, anything that's a first-party title for Nintendo, it's going to be a hit. They have nothing to worry about, but they worry so much, and they are so protective. And I guess with a company like that, you know, that's valued at so much money, maybe they feel like they have to. But this one could hurt game development going forward. You know, not only it's not necessarily ripping off an idea, but improving upon it. Maybe game developers will be able to improve on something to make it different enough to stand out, to avoid the patent. I'm not sure. But yeah, just Nintendo. They love throwing curveballs and wrenches and things. But what do you think? There's that call to action. Let me know down in the comments. What are your thoughts on Nintendo as a whole, on these patents? Did you notice any interesting things in Tears of the Kingdom that you haven't seen in a game before? Are you going to write to Nintendo to tell them to add it to their list? Don't do that. Anyways, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Check out my other videos. I have a really cool one on the 1993 Mario Brothers movie, how it was adapted from game into film and all the things that they changed. Really, really neat. But yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys. See ya.